gentlemen, this is the very first episode of I Am Tramont. I am your host, Fresh Prince, aka Darron Tramont. And you guys, it's such an honor and a privilege to debut this episode to you guys. It was a little project that's been close to my heart for a while now. Shout out to the OTS gang for helping me put this thing together. And it's an honor to have this first guest on here. This guy, I've known him for a long time. He's been an awesome person in my life, a big role model. He's also a host of his own show, Life's a Botch. You got Mr. Dwayne Dickey, aka Highlight Real. What's going on, my ooze?
What's going on, Mr. Tramont? What's up, Oos? How you doing,
Man,
sir?
I'm doing pretty well. How about you, bro?
Oh, wonderful, man. Wonderful. Here setting the business setting occasion. We right here, given the proper exteriors, you know what I'm saying? I was contacted and asked to be a part of this wonderful, extraordinary occasion,
Yes,
and
sir.
I thought it was fitting and best for business, especially this business, to
Mm-hmm.
step foot and find myself in the right situation to join my oos in this occasion.
Okay, I see you got the tag team belt on your shoulders. I see the little
Yeah,
shirt on you, bro. You came right. You came with the right swag today. I see,
yeah,
huh?
well, I had to represent, the CEO of CEOs and Mr. MVP himself.
Okay.
CEO of a certain business that we know called the Hurt Business. And
Mm.
when you're with the Hurt Business, you know, and have gold around your shoulders, and it's nothing less than that. So yeah, they got tag champs, they got
Okay.
United States champs, and they
Okay.
got the champ. You know what I mean? So hey, we're in here pretty well. You know what I'm
Well,
saying?
since you represent the hurt business, I had to represent my boys. I had to go back. I had to go way back. I had to go back to the '90s, the NWO, not just any brand of the NWO, the Wolfpack. And I got this belt with me right now. Kevin
Mm,
Nash, Kevin Nash was my guy. Big dudes, the big diesel. And
yes,
I gotta
yes.
represent with him because this is a special episode. It is the very first episode. We had to do it right. You know what I
Indeed.
mean?
Yes, we did. Yes,
So
we did.
before we get started, I just want to kind of explain how the podcast is gonna go. I am Tremont is a way for me to show my personality to the fans and to my supporters and to everybody who represent OTS. And you're gonna hear a lot about my first love, professional wrestling, you guys. That's always been my first love since I was 1 years old. And I think I'm the only person who still enjoys it in my family, actually. I'm gonna also be talking about different acting projects that I'll be involved with. Just doing different topics with different guests and you guys. I just want to show you guys that this is my world and I'm not afraid to show it. And that's why I really appreciate my boy Dwayne coming on because wrestling been a huge impact in my life. So has it been in his life. And so it was on the right to bring him on as the first guest. And also he brought me on when his show was just getting started. And so I had to show the love and appreciation back. And I really want to thank you now, bro, for coming on. And hey, let's have some fun.
Oh yes, absolutely. Let's have a lot of fun, man. So
Yes, sir.
by all means, I'm here to follow your lead, my friend. Let's do this
Yeah,
thing.
yes, sir. So I want people like to get to know you, get to know you more. I'm pretty sure you discussed it more over on your show, but like wrestling, you're a huge wrestling fan. We know it. You dissect it. You know it. Like it's like art to you. So, what is
Mm.
your first memory of you seeing professional wrestling? Or what was that match? Who was that first wrestler for you? Like, what made you
Mhm.
say, you know what? I'm gonna study this more and I'm a fan of it. Like what made you say that? Like, wow, this is it for me.
You know, wow, that's a great question, actually. It goes back to being a Memphis native. I
Mm-hmm.
remember living with my grandmother at the time, and I spent a lot of time with my grandmother. A lot of times she would babysit me when my mother was working. So, she'd be working at FedEx, and it was just a lot of wouldn't come home till late. So I'd be with my grandmother most of the time, when we be at the house, I remember, I just kind of be in her room, and she just be kind of, just we'd spend some time together a lot of times, and just like
Mm-hmm.
watch whatever was on TV. A lot of times she would probably watch something she wanted to watch, and just kind of be in my own little world, playing with some toys or something, watching with her or whatever. And then of course she would let me kind of just flip the channels and see whatever I wanted to watch. So at the time, while my mother and me were living with my grandmother at the time, we did have cable at the house. So I remember flipping through some channels, and I just came across this interesting visual. I saw a woman, and I saw a man who was talking to this woman, and I saw this man who was very decked out in swag. He was very Elvis looking in a way, and had these glasses, and had a certain swag about him. And then all of a
Mm-hmm.
sudden I saw this woman who I knew was a woman, but I was wondering, hey, is that a woman for sure, or is she's kind of swole? Is that a woman, or is that a man? Because I've never seen a woman so muscular. And then
Mm-hmm.
found out, of course, it was indeed a woman. These two individuals are by the name of The Rock and China, and
Mm-hmm.
I saw them first. I just flipped through, and I remember seeing them during the Attitude Era, and I saw all of this, and it had me hooked for some reason, because again, being so intrigued by this individual who looked like Elvis and The Rock with the sideburns and the glasses and the hair, made me wonder, okay, what is this? Is this a parody, or what is this? What am I
Uh-huh.
watching right now? And it just had me hooked from there on, because I remember just watching it week after week after week, and then finding out about, through my cousin, oh, hey, there's this other one named WCW. Really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it came on an hour before this Monday Night Raw. All right,
Mm-hmm.
cool. Flipping through back and forth, just watching both uh, competitors. Watching both uh, organizations going at it. For the Monday
Mm-hmm.
Night Wars, which is epic time wrestling. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, man, that would be my first experience and encounterment with it,
Mm-hmm.
where I really took it serious. And I just remember at that time, I made a lot of friends over the years. What made me love wrestling was I made a lot of friends through wrestling, because I was a very shy kid.
Mm-hmm.
So at that time, being such a shy kid, kind of all this personality, but just yet to myself, shy. I remember coming to school and finding out that I made friends who also liked wrestling like I did. We would talk about it, and next thing you know, full fledged conversation about wrestling involved us hanging out all the time, squatted
Mm-hmm.
up, buddied up. You know what I mean? Even talks with some of those friends of like, hey, we're gonna grow up and be wrestlers. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, we're gonna
Right.
grow up and we're gonna do this. Yeah, this is fun. We gotta grow up and do this. So, man, it just stuck with me, and I haven't looked back since, man.
Right, that's dope, and it's interesting how you was right there, like in the middle of the Monday Night Wars, how you was switching back and forth. I know that was actually like for me being so young, because I ain't getting into wrestling probably like right at the tail end WCW ending. Like I said, I was 1 years old, so I could never really experience switching back and forth because I was a baby. So the hear that you was in that era where anything could happen, you had to switch both channels. That's dope.
Yes.
Um, so as I heard you say The Rock and China, so what since you brought them out, especially
Mhm.
The Rock, because I know you love The Rock. The Rock is your main oos for wrestling. What match made you like sit back and say, "Man, this guy is legendary. Like this guy gonna be in the Hall of Fame. This guy's gonna be my favorite forever." What match was because I like for me, my
Mhm.
history with The Rock. I'm just now coming around with him, but I
Mhm.
cannot deny the fact, especially in that time, the Attitude Era,
Mhm.
the Monday Night Wars, The Rock was a main factor of WWF, well, WWE as we know it, taking
Mhm.
over the ratings. So, what match in that era made you say, you know what, that's my guy?
You know what? That's so awesome to say, because back then, it was finding favorites were
Mm,
so hard, because I had so many favorites.
mm-hmm,
The Rock was the first guy to catch my attention, and then Austin was the guy to keep my attention,
mm,
and then all of a sudden I come across guys like Kane,
Mm-hmm.
Jeff Hardy, Mankind, and next thing I knew, I was incredibly hooked to all of these different characters. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but the ironic part about The Rock and Stone Cold was the dynamic between the two. Because for me, the first match that had me say, okay, yeah, I love this was WrestleMania 15,
Mm.
seeing Stone Cold versus The Rock in the main event at WrestleMania.
Great match. Great match.
And it's crazy, really, because beforehand, didn't even realize that until looking back at it, I didn't realize that the road that led to that match, I actually got to experience my first live show.
Wow. Wow.
And it was 1997, St. Valentine's Day Massacre,
At the
Memphis,
pyramid.
Tennessee, at the
Mm-hmm.
Pyramid. One of my rare and only experiences with that venue, where I remember it like yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Being there, had a drill sergeant, from my drill team back in church. We had a drill sergeant, and when we was in drill team, me and my cousins, and he won some tickets on the radio, K97. Ended up winning some free tickets to go see a show, WWF, and next thing I know, obviously the drill sergeant and my mother were very connected because I believe we got a drill team through my mother. So he reached out to her and said, "Hey, well, look, he had a son." So he was like, "Look, I got a couple extra tickets.
Oh.
Me and my cousin we were good enough. We were lucky enough to be a part of that. So he picked us up. We went and we were there, man, and experiencing that experience to see all of my favorites: Al Snow, Kane, Shamrock, Stone Cold, The Rock,
Mm-hmm.
Mankind. It was a very very beautiful experience. But yeah, I would say that match and anything that The Rock and Mankind did together. I don't know
Yes.
what I really enjoyed about those the most, but something about that dynamic between those two always seemed to grab my attention. Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
I think about the it's funny because we just passed the Super Bowl not too long ago,
Mm-hmm.
and the anniversary of halftime heat,
Mm.
where literally Vince said, okay, during halftime of the Super Bowl, we're gonna do a match, no fans, completely in the stadium, empty arena match, The Rock versus Mankind, you know, in on the line. Let's go. You know what I mean?
Right.
And to see them go back and forth and hear The Rock talking all this trash during a match while just literally putting some sauce on this man and just taking a bite. Oh, it's
Just awesome.
mild. Like you're like, man, who does that? Who talks that much trash while
Mm-hmm.
beating the heck out of someone like that? So that just matches like that to me told me like, yeah, this man's gonna be legendary, for sure, for sure.
That's wild because, like I said, I think that's why our connection is so strong. It's like our very first things with wrestling have a connection with The Rock. I talked about this with you probably before, but the very first match I ever seen was Judgment Day 2000, The Rock
Mm,
against Triple H in the
yes,
Iron Man match with Shawn Michaels, special guest referee, The Undertaker comeback as the American Badass. And I think
yes,
that's why I have such a strong connection for the biker taker, because you know what I'm saying, that's the Undertaker I seen before, getting older, seeing the dead man come back. But go back to The Rock, that's why I
hmm
have such a connection with him. Because my very first match, I remember it was me, my mom, and my pops, and we was in the living room. We were living in Fraser here in Memphis at that time. And I
hmm
was sitting on his lap, man. I just remember The Rock and Triple H beating the hell out of each other. It was just epic. It was just like, I can say what I said about The Rock when I was younger, how I couldn't stand him, but I can't take away the fact he made such a huge impact in my life, your life, and just the whole wrestling industry for the fans and everything, bro. So it's
hmm
dope. They see we kind of have that same connection with them, man. Dwayne Johnson,
sure,
like, I bow down to him. I'm giving his roses while he's still here. because
Sure.
he's the best, man. I give him that. So pay-per-views. Everybody have a favorite pay-per-view. What do you feel
Mm.
like is your favorite pay-per-view?
Man, okay, so I'm gonna give you two
Okay.
because one of them is no longer around,
Okay.
and the other one is very year round and completely traditional.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so my personal favorite pay per view
Mm-hmm.
is the Royal Rumble.
Ooh, good one.
It's something about that year when that comes up. It's always an excitement. Growing up to see all of these different people coming, all of your favorites, and then even just like the undercard and mid card guys. It's a nice mix of everybody's getting a shot to get some TV time, but to also win a chance to main event the
Mm-hmm.
biggest show of the year.
Mm.
And that factor of, yo, who actually could win this thing?
A
You
big
know,
event.
and the
Mm-hmm.
unpredictability of like, oh snap, so and so's in this thing.
Mm-hmm.
The Rock's in it, Kane's in it, Taker's in it, Big
Loaded.
Show's in it. You know what I mean? Brock Lesnar's in it. What? Hold on. Who's gonna win this thing? Mr. Perfect, guys coming back. You know, you're over here like, RVD's coming back. All of these different guys over the years, surprise entries. Like AJ Styles debuting for the first time. Like
Epic.
all of this stuff signifies you never know what you're gonna get out of a Royal Rumble.
Correct.
And
Right.
that is exactly why I love that event because the moment that clock counts down and that buzzer sounds, it's a matter of, okay, whose music are we about to hear right now? And the
Mm-hmm.
craziness of the pop. I think about 2011 when my boy Booker T came back
Whew.
and the pop that just was set through that whole entire arena was just like, yo, he's back.
Man.
Like it's a beautiful thing. It gives you a great feeling. I think about, one of my personal favorites in 2001 where my boy Kane dominated, and I still feel that's a
Everybody.
rumble that he should have won personally.
Yes.
Uh,
Yeah.
but still, just the fact that to go in there and just dominate and how that Royal Rumble told a story from start to finish.
Mm-hmm.
Just all kind of stuff like that. Um, so I love the Royal Rumble, but before the Royal Rumble, I had a favorite pay-per-view that really was my favorite.
Okay.
Uh, but like I said, it's no longer around, and personally, I wish it would be brought back.
Mm-hmm.
But the King of the Ring,
Ooh, yes.
the King of the
Yes.
Ring was my favorite pay-per-view.
Mine's
I
too.
used to love that idea of having these qualifying matches, and then it sets up where you had this bracket, this tournament style bracket, and then you'd see, the qualifying matchups during the shows, the SmackDowns, the Raws. Then you would see like maybe, the first, second rounds, first
Mm-hmm.
couple of rounds, and then
Mm-hmm.
the pay-per-view itself you would get a few matches in there, like some mid card title matches. You
Right,
may
right,
have a
right.
main event title match, but
Mm-hmm.
the majority of that pay per view was centered around the actual tournament. The fact that you would open up the show with a semifinal matchup, then you'd have another mid card match in there, and then you'd have another semifinal matchup. Most of that pay per view was centered around the King of the Ring, and the fact that I think about the year Kurt Angle won the King of the Ring and how it told such a story because Rikishi went through so many lumps and barriers, and you wondered, okay, is he gonna do it? Because he literally went round after round beating people every time getting beat up somehow and injured along the way to where he got to the finals, fought Kurt Angle, gave an epic match, told a story that even though I'm completely injured, I'm here.
Mm-hmm.
And for Kurt Angle to eventually triumph over, a not 100% Rikishi, still told a story. Like, it
Right.
lets you know that Kurt Angle was getting catapulted. It lets you know Rikishi still looks strong because he went through all of that. It just Royal Rumble told so many stories. It made stars as well because I think about
Mm.
Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Yeah.
There would be no Stone Cold Steve Austin probably if it wasn't for pay-per-views like King of the Ring because he
Ring,
cut that
yup.
infamous Austin 316 promo says I just whipped your well, and
Yeah.
and that just goes to show uh this pay-per-view needs its comeback. That's what is
Mm-hmm.
missing today. They brought it back, but it wasn't quite the same yet. Like they have to bring it back in a pay-per-view
Pay
form.
view.
You know what I'm
Right.
saying? And then you really have to because the fact that that tournament used to guarantee, like the Royal Rumble, it
Mm-hmm.
guaranteed the winner a title shot
Mm-hmm.
instantly. And you knew, and not just a mid-card title, legit catapulted you to main event status.
Mm-hmm.
All the reason why it was one of my favorite pay-per-views.
And I agree, and that's a great pay per view. That was actually what I was thinking of, because the King of the Ring, like you said, it brought some epic moments, like you said, Stone Cold Steve Austin. If you hear the story about it, like what if Hunter Hearst Helmsley had won that year? What we had still had that Stone Cold, but
Mhm.
even besides that, if they didn't have the King of the Ring that year, would Stone Cold still be there? Like it's
Mhm.
interesting to think things like that. Like my favorite King of the Ring winner was Edge. That was epic to me, and the
Yes.
story, like you said, it tells a story like after he won, it brought an epic rivalry between him and Christian. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? And for the
Yeah.
Intercontinental title, so I understand, and I do agree with you. They need to bring it back as a pay per view because I didn't like it when they just brought it back as a regular tournament for Raw and SmackDown just on the
Hmm.
shows because they didn't take them serious. I think the last person they took serious as a King of the Ring winner was probably William Regal when he won 2008. When they
Hmm.
brought it back, they tried to do something with Sheamus. It wasn't, it was okay. They
Hmm.
tried something with King Barrett, and I shout out to him trying to make it work. But if you're gonna make somebody the King of the Ring, don't make them lose. He was losing too many matches. So
Oh
King of
yeah.
the Ring is like one of my favorites also. So I agree with you. Royal Rumble is it's a close second favorite to me.
Hmm.
Like you said, you never know who's gonna win and everything, but well, my favorite was No Way Out. Now they call it the
Mm.
Elimination Chamber. That was my
No way
favorite
out.
because the reason why that was my favorite, you never knew, like especially when the champion defended his title inside the Elimination Chamber,
Mhm.
anything could happen. Like 2008, for example. You know what I mean? Even though Randy Orton didn't defend it in the Elimination Chamber, we had Triple H to win a spot. Now we got a triple threat match between him, Cena, Orton, like things like that. I love
Yes.
those pay per views in between the Royal Rumble and Mania because anything can happen.
Yes.
Nowadays, not really because you got Fastlane, Elimination Chamber. It kind of throws stuff off, but back
Hmm.
then it was great. It was epic, bro. Okay,
Hmm.
so my next question for you before we transition to our next topic. So you grew up in that era with the Monday Night Wars. You was there.
Hmm.
You was like in the prime of it. If you could choose, like now as more of an adult now, getting more history of wrestling in your body,
Hmm.
which one you feel like produced the best content? And I know a lot of people who probably listen to this way, obviously it'd be WWF because WCW is not around no more. But besides that, like it's sometimes WCW produce some great content. I could do Rey Mysterio versus Eddie Guerrero at Halloween Havoc as an example.
Hmm.
So to you, which one you feel like put out the best? It's a two-part question. Who you feel like put out the best wrestling content, and which brand you feel like put out the best entertaining content? Like which one, like to you?
You know what? That's actually a fairly easy question for me.
Okay.
Honestly, looking back at it, I feel like for that era of the Attitude Era,
Mm-hmm.
and the Monday Night Wars, WCW put out the better wrestling content in
Okay.
terms of matches with the
I agree.
talent that they had.
Mm-hmm.
The Chris Jerichos, the Shane Helmses,
Mm-hmm.
it was Chris Benoit's and all of those guys. Now things took a shift though
Mm-hmm.
because once obviously WWF had the better entertainment,
The
right?
characters and everything, yeah.
The character building, all of that jazz. But things took a turn the moment people jumped ship from WCW to WWE.
Mm.
When the Jerichos, the Benoits, the Guerreros, the Dean Malenkos, and all of them started making their way over to WWE, then WWE suddenly became the better wrestling and the better entertainment. You know, all that was really missing were some of my personal favorite WCW people, like such as who eventually made their way there. But you know, the Booker T's,
Mm-hmm.
the Shane Helmses,
Mm-hmm.
the um, Shannon Moore's, and of course Sting, which
Mm-hmm.
I for one still wish Prime Sting would have made his way to
Yeah,
WWE.
me too. Me too.
But you know, we never really got to see that,
Right,
unfortunately.
right,
But
right,
yes, I definitely have to agree. Now, a lot of people don't know this, but
right. Uh-huh.
WWE had a chance to get AJ Styles,
Right, right, right.
as did WCW. And WCW just ended right before they had a chance to bring up another star in AJ Styles, which I think had that happened and they not gone out of business,
Mm-hmm.
AJ Styles for sure would have been the weight bearer to carry WCW to the next level.
And yeah, I believe that because I think at that time Vince Russo was working on like a new blood generation at that time. So I wouldn't be shocked because look what AJ Styles did with TNA. So I most definitely agree with you on that. Especially when and then I also go back what you say when a lot of people start jumping ship. That's
Mm-hmm.
why I had so much hope for the invasion angle because
Yes.
that storyline could have. I understand they had to work what they had to work with because like the big names were still getting paid by Ted Turner at that time. If I'm
Mm-hmm.
wrong, please excuse me. But like I know Ric Flair, Sting, and Goldberg were still on contracts where they could just sit at home and get paid. So I
Mm-hmm.
understand that, but I would love to see, like you said, Prime Sting and Prime Undertaker at that time. That would have been dope. That would have been awesome to see, bro. And
Yes.
I agree with you. Besides the storylines at WCW and the overbooking pushes of my boys in WO, WCW at that time was putting out better wrestling content, especially with the cruiserweights. Even though a lot of people said they didn't really get the cruiserweights as much time at that and back in those days, but the content of wrestling was just dope. I mean, you can say a
Yes.
lot about WCW. I know my champs, the Taco Champions, probably listening and watching this right now. They are huge WCW fanatics, especially Hearts. But
Mm-hmm.
but WCW has some great talent over there, and I really wish, man, I really wish that Vince didn't buy them. If they did buy them, brought more of the prime time WCW players over. They
Mm-hmm.
came. I feel like we said, Sting came 2014, little too late.
Mm-hmm.
Kevin Nash, when he came back, he had a lot of injuries, things like that. So I
Yeah.
agree with you. WCW had the better wrestling, but WWF had more of the characters in the entertainment. So, speaking of around that years and that era of wrestling, WWE recently put out a new documentary called WWE Icons, and the very first episode was the legendary Yokozuna. You got a chance to check it out?
Oh,
Corey?
absolutely. Absolutely.
Oh, good, great, great. And for the ones who didn't know, Yokozuna, he was a dominant force in the early '90s in the WWF, mid '90s also. Um, for wrestling fans who doesn't know, he's related to Roman Reigns, the Uso twins, Rikishi, the Wild Samoans, Umaga, all those guys, the incredible talent, that whole bloodline. Those guys are just amazing. And Yokozuna's story, it was just amazing and just beautiful. So, kind of catch you up. We were just basically talking about how his uncle uh
Mm-hmm.
promised his brother just to like promise his brother that he was gonna take Yokozuna under his wing and just make sure he be focused and stay and keep a straight path in life with professional wrestling, and how basically when he got started he just took over. Like
Mm-hmm.
Yokozuna, he was doing things that no man his size could do. Like it wasn't like I couldn't imagine no guy like over 300, 400 pounds moving the way he did.
Mm-hmm.
How him and Rikishi came up in WWF as a small tag team, but how Yokozuna broke off, became a Japanese character. The history of the WrestleMania situation that everybody really despised. Him
Yeah.
winning his win his WWF title, and a certain brother interfered with that. So I just want to see your mindset of it, Dwayne. What part stood out to you the most? Of course, we're gonna discuss the end of it, which was it was sad to see Yokozuna pass away the way he did.
Hmm.
Man, that hurts a lot. But before we get to that part, what was your overall thoughts on the documentary? How you feel that the WWE did on it? How you feel that his family spoke on? Or just how you feel about the career of Yokozuna was presented in the entire documentary?
Man, I loved it. I think they did him a solid with
Right.
this. It was definitely a way. I wish it was one of those things where he still could have been around to be a part of telling his story behind everything.
Mm-hmm.
Usually with these type of things, it always sucks that you can't hear the side of the person that's no longer here to tell their side of what he felt, what he was going through all of this. But nonetheless, like I'm sure he looked down on that and smiled big, knowing that like his story was told, his legacy was left to be visually seen to those who may not have been around at that time, like the younger fans of today who didn't know about this incredibly large man who was larger than life. You saw it
Mm-hmm.
through a lot of the kids who, were just like, yeah, Yokozuna, like, yeah, we want to see this man, like being an attraction. He signified, again, just going to what a lot lacks today, being an attraction,
Mm-hmm.
something you want to see. You want, whether you want to see, honestly, to me, um, Yokozuna was probably the biggest attraction for that era since
Yes.
Andre the Giant.
Yeah, most definitely. I agree. I think it's just because, like you said, he was larger than life. And
Hmm.
and and to see a guy to move that fast, like nobody's seen nobody like this since Andre, you know what I mean? And I was so excited to learn more about him because all I did was just watch some of the matches.
Hmm.
I'm not gonna pretend like I was just the biggest Yokozuna fan. I don't seen like the big important matches like his match with Hogan at King of the Ring.
Hmm.
No, of course, the WrestleMania match with Bret Hart, and it was dope to see the history behind that match because when I was watching it for the first time, I was so confused. I was so
Hmm.
confused at the end of the match how Hogan got thrown in there and everything, and to hear the history behind it. For the guys and the fans who doesn't know the history behind the story, so
Hmm.
Yokozuna went against Bret Hart for the WWF Championship WrestleMania 11, correct? If I'm not wrong, yeah.
WrestleMania 9.
WrestleMania 9. Yeah, WrestleMania 9. They went against each other at WrestleMania 9. Dope match. Yokozuna beat Bret Hart for the WWF title. So, for the people who know the Hogan part, so how Hogan won the belt is because Hogan basically played backstage politics. He went up to Vince. They were like, "Hey, what's the main event? Can he get involved with it? Because he was about to go and promote some movie. This was his way to promote a movie he just shot around that time." And like Bret Hart said, he felt like that was a slap in the face to the generation of Yokozuna. He felt like they were getting past the Hulk Hogan era, which I agree. Hulk Hogan, you can say whatever you want about him. I'm not the biggest fan of him, but he was the 80s. He was the big guy in the 80s, and he helped make wrestling mainstream, and I appreciate that. But I felt like that was so disrespectful to Yokozuna and the new guys who's coming up in the industry that he basically told Vince, "Hey, forget that guy. Let me get the belt, promote the movie for a couple months, then I'll drop it." And I feel like it's going past the era. Like now, I see what fans now are going through there again. Look at Goldberg. When Goldberg won the Universal title against the Fiend Bray Wyatt. You know what I'm saying? It's like history repeating itself, and it's like a slap in the face. And that was basically what Yokozuna went through. And Rikishi said in the documentary, it's like Yokozuna didn't care, but he cared. And to me, I I feel like he cared because I feel like that was a slap in the face on him. Like, if you look up the build up from him and Britt for that till WrestleMania, he was on fire. Like, for him to play a heel, he was getting big pops from the crowd because everybody knew this is a new era, this is a new generation, and we finally go get a champ. And so to have Hulk Hogan to come and interfere with that, it was like, what was the point? You know what I mean? You took away
Yes.
his shine. And when you go back and watch the documentary, you can see Roman Reigns' face. He was like, that was a big moment for my family. And he said, and then like he was disappointed. You could tell Roman's still disappointed. And that happened like 30 some years ago, bro.
Oh
You
yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
So Yokozuna's story, as a wrestling fan, I feel like every wrestling fan should watch that documentary, because after he dropped the belt to Hogan, then won the belt back, he was kind of getting his stride. It took him a couple months to get the belt back. He beat Hogan at King of the Ring, but after he dropped that belt, as you saw for the documentary, his life went downhill. Um, Yokozuna had a weight problem. Um, the man was eating over like big pounds of food. And in the documentary, a fan asked him how much does he eat for breakfast, and he said, "I eat more than you." And in Yokozuna, his weight was getting bigger and bigger as time went by. Bruce Pritchard, he actually talked about how WWF sent him away for 3 months to lose weight, and he said he came back bigger than ever, you guys. So if just Google Yokozuna, and you can see how big he was when he first came in, and look at him before he passed away. The guy was huge, and it was kind of it was heartbreaking. So Dwayne, to see a guy like that, larger
Hmm.
than life, we so used we forget that they are characters. We forget that they are humans because of their characters. We think, oh man, like larger than life, nothing can break them down. So to hear the dark side of him going down, like the turmoil going on in his life, as a fan, how did that make you feel?
It definitely was heartbreaking to see. It's like the old cliche of every star has their rise and every star has
Mm-hmm.
their fall,
Mm-hmm.
and how you handle the fall always tells the story.
Mm.
And unfortunately, it didn't seem like that fall was handled well,
Yeah.
because with what was trying to be, we want to help you get back to your larger than life status.
Mm-hmm.
It slowly became one of those things where it was sad to see I'm hanging back to my glory days,
Mm-hmm.
while looking like a shell of myself. And that's with any talent. You never want to see that with any talent that you look at, from all of the greats. you know it's really crazy because I think about, again, as you mentioned, like when you see what Goldberg is doing today, and how you're like, man, it almost breaks your heart, because you're like, this ain't that era anymore, man.
Yeah.
And we don't want to see you like this. The Undertaker, when he realized it was time to finally hang it up, and he
Mm-hmm.
couldn't really give Roman that send off match he really wanted to give him, and he was looking like a shell of himself.
So.
You know, um, so many names come to mind, but then you think about ones like a Stone Cold Steve Austin, who quietly retired
Mm-hmm.
amongst anyone with not even really anyone realizing,
Yep.
and then yet still hanging on to his name, where he doesn't look like a fallen star. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
In fact, Stone Cold still Stone Cold. You're like, hey man, that's Stone Cold. Grab a couple of Steve Weisers and
Yep.
celebrate with my man real quick. And you're good. But like, it just, again, looking at Yokozuna, it's just like, man, that's heartbreaking to see. And
Mm-hmm.
the heart goes out to the family, because even then I could see the happiness and the celebration, but then see still to this day that there's just so much hurt, feeling like they could have done more or could have
Yeah.
done better, and that breaks my heart because of the family, and knowing like there's so much more that could have been done to save this man's life. And it's sad. It's sad.
Yeah. Yeah. Yokozuna is just it just went from performing from the millions to perform in front of like 100 in the crowd. Not only that, let's go back to health wise to see him. 300 pounds. That's a big guy. That's still big, but to see him towards the end of his life, like almost like 400, close to 500 pounds, it was just like, wow, he needs help, especially when he had like 7. Wow, and especially when they show him in the Indies when he wearing the black shirt, it was like he had like 2 big leather coats on. Like it was just heartbreaking. It made me. And what really hurt me the most was seeing Rikishi broke down in the documentary. Rikishi, we so used to him like another larger than life party character and everything. To see him break down on camera, to see Roman, because Roman got the biggest heel character right now. So to see him to break character, to see him upset about, of course, his family, to see them upset, it kind of makes me wonder, like with Umaga. His heart. He passed away due to a heart attack. It kind of made me think about him. Like, was it drugs, or was it also a weight issue like Yokozuna? You know what I mean? So that family, they've been through a lot.
Even Roman's brother.
Yeah, Roman's brother, Rosie. Yeah, so like that was things like that, bro. Like that family been through it all, and I think that's why Roman and the Usos are really carrying the legacy right now in WWE wise. I know they got other family members in MLW and everything like that, but I just feel like they are Yokozuna, like you said earlier about how he was smiling in the documentary. I think he's looking down, smiling like you looked at my mistakes. You don't make those same mistakes. You just be better than I was, and they proving it every single day. I feel like, honestly, to me, when after Yokozuna passed away, even though that was towards the end of Rikishi's career going like retirement, Rikishi got even better. It's like Yokozuna jumped inside of him to me for some reason. I don't know why. To me, it just felt like that. Because Rikishi in 2001, he was on a run, bro. He was just doing massive things, especially around the time Yokozuna passed away in 2000, like with the whole I did it for the Rock storyline. You know what I mean? That whole family, to me, they're just awesome. You can't take that away. You can't take away from that family, because those guys carry professional wrestling for years, bro.
Exactly.
So it was dope to see Yokozuna get his roses. Of course, I wish he was still alive to tell his side and to receive those roses. But it was dope to see his kids, because I didn't even know he had kids. So it was dope to see them on there, to see Rikishi, Roman, man. I think Jay was on there. So I recommend everybody, if you don't have the WWE Network, please think about investing in it and watch that documentary, because it's really great. The WWE really did a great job on it, and I can't wait for the next episodes. That when they were promoting it, they promote Rob Van Bill Phoenix. So I can't wait to see those guys' stories. And it's awesome. Just check it out, you guys. So
absolutely,
highlight reel, you my guy. So I gotta hit you. It's called the Championship Round by Tramont. Championship Round by Tramont. I'm gonna hit you with some questions. You answer as quick as possible. Don't overthink. You can't overthink it. It's quick, fast to the punch. Bam. All right. Question number 1.
All right, let's do it.
Brett or Sean?
Sean.
Rock or Austin?
Rock.
Vince or Shane?
Shane.
Booker T or Stevie Ray?
Booker T.
Okay, I see how you went down. Goldberg or Sting?
Sting.
Nash or Hall?
Hall.
Okay, brother. Okay. Jimmy or Jay?
Jay.
What?
Jay.
You went with Jay? I thought you were gonna go with Jimmy. Okay.
Jay. Gotta give it to my man Jay. He's on fire right now.
Benoit or Guerrero?
Guerrero.
Dean or Ray?
Ray.
Seth Rollins or John Moxley?
Seth Rollins.
Okay. Roman Reigns or Keith Lee?
Roman Reigns.
And this is the big one, the money maker, because I think I already know this answer. The Rock or Cena?
John Cena.
Wow. Explain. Discuss. Now, that was the moment. Okay, discuss. So, why you chose Cena over Rock? I'm very intrigued on that answer.
Okay, everyone who knows me knows I love The Rock. I do.
Right.
And
Yes, you do.
the only reason I chose Cena is because he has had to carry a load more than The Rock.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
And the reason is because two different eras. Now, I will choose The Rock in any other category from charisma, acting, um, all of those things, larger than life persona, all of that.
Mm-hmm.
But the reason I went with Cena is because Cena didn't really have a lot of names on his level at that time.
Mm-hmm. Right. Right.
Edge, but then Edge had to retire forcefully in 2011.
Mm-hmm.
Angle, but he left in 2006 and ended up in Impact Wrestling and put pretty much Impact on the map, wrestling with those talents.
Mm-hmm.
As we know, Guerrero and Benoit weren't around.
Yeah.
JBL, after he defeated him, did not stay on that top level.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I mean, this man literally had to work with The Miz,
Yeah.
R Truth,
Mm-hmm.
CM Punk, man,
They're just a
even
new
even
era.
even a Kane, a Dolph Ziggler.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there's so many names of guys who were like mid tier or
Oh,
you
working their way up
working their
type
way
guys.
up,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Never someone who was on the same level as him or higher.
Right. Right.
Um, versus The Rock, who, as we know,
Mm-hmm.
he came up with a lot of these guys at the same time.
Right. Right.
Stone Cold and The Rock were coming up together. Triple H and The Rock were coming up together. They were all starting off in that mid card together.
Mm-hmm.
They all got to that main event level status together. So they were all tearing the house down together.
Mm-hmm.
Now the Undertaker was already on that solid level.
Mm-hmm.
But still, you see what I'm saying? Like
Mm-hmm.
it just, same thing with Mankind. The Rock had a strong base around him where everybody was kind of equal. You
Mm-hmm.
get what I'm saying? Again, you had people who liked people more than others,
Mm-hmm.
but everybody was still on the same tier
Same level.
together.
Yeah.
Cena had to work with a lot of people that weren't on his tier yet. He had to be the guy to bring them to his tier, much like Roman is doing right now.
Right.
Roman
Right.
Reigns is in that same position now. It was forceful at first,
Yeah.
but now with this persona, this tribal chief persona, this head of the
Mm-hmm.
table persona,
Mm-hmm.
he's resurrecting guys who were just floating,
Kevin Owens, for
bringing them back
example.
to his
Yeah.
level.
Yeah.
Possibly a Cesaro. So many individuals are being resurrected through him now, in
Mm-hmm.
a way. Which all plays into the psychology of who he is. But because of that, that's why I had to go with Cena. That was the only
Yeah.
reason I had to.
And
I
I
had to give.
agree. I agree, and like you said, and like I feel like the only person was on Cena's level at that time that kept him away for a long time, which was Batista.
Hmm.
Him and Batista was at that same level. Cena might be a little bit more. I feel like they put
Orton.
Batista, Orton,
Orton.
yeah,
There
yeah.
was
See,
also Orton.
yeah, Orton and Batista, and I feel like Orton they did the perfect timing, but the Batista, I feel like the matches they did have with Cena and Batista, that was around the time Batista was like mentally out of wrestling at that time. I feel
Mm-hmm.
like if they did it probably around, like if they did like a champion versus champion in 2005, we probably got some
Mm-hmm.
dope matches. But like they 2008 match at SummerSlam didn't work out too well. Cena got hurt. 2010, like I said, they did some great matches, but you could tell mentally Batista was out of it. But I agree, like
Yes.
Cena was Cena was just kind of helping talent trying to get on, and even though people thought he was burying them, he really wasn't. You gotta understand, Cena didn't have those, like you just said, those guys up there with him. I feel like the guys that was up there with him, I think because the internet helped him, and also because he had independent experience with CM Punk. Like I'm a huge Punk fan. I feel like that storyline made sense. R-Truth, it felt like in the beginning it was forced, but it started making sense with the conspiracy theory and the Miz. It made sense because it was a cocky young Miz, but at the same time, you would never imagine Cena was gonna have a program with him. So
Yes.
I agree. So to hear you say Cena, at first I was shocked, but to hear you explain it, it makes sense now. Like, okay, yeah, Cena had not only that, The Rock was probably what 5 years in, probably like 5, 6 years in before he left, and Cena got what 14 years before he left. So
Yeah.
it's a,
Yeah. The
yeah.
longevity definitely. It's again. To me, the Cena and the Rock conversation is always the Michael Jordan,
And the
LeBron James
LeBron.
situation. To me, it's both deserve flowers.
Mm-hmm.
Both in their own ways are Hall of Fame greats and have accomplished a lot and changed a lot of generations.
Mm-hmm.
People who grew up in the generation of Cena, much like people who grew up in the generation of LeBron, will of course
Mm-hmm.
put them number one because that's your generation.
Ration.
People who
Yeah.
grew up in the generation of The Rock, like the generation of MJ, of course you're gonna say Jordan. Of course you're gonna say The Rock because you grew up in that.
Mm-hmm.
But I am interested to see the ones who didn't grow up in either generation.
Ooh.
You see what I'm saying? When
Yeah.
LeBron's done, I want to see the people outside of LeBron's era trying to compare the two,
Yeah.
what they will do. The same thing with Cena and The Rock. I want to see, now that we know both are clearly phased out of that top guy status,
Mm-hmm.
both on, more commercialized movie ventures and things of that
Mm-hmm.
nature. I want to see the wrestling fans. Maybe you're growing up in this Roman Reigns era.
Right.
You
Right.
know,
No, I was just
maybe
about to
maybe
say.
he's the guy that,
Mm-hmm.
if you're a kid growing up in the Roman era, from the force-fed
Mm-hmm.
Roman to the current Roman. Maybe you're a kid
Mm-hmm.
growing up in this era and he's your goat.
Right.
I want to see what that is. So again, man, The Rock will always be number one in my heart. He's always definitely one of my favorites and my tops. But looking back, especially now being on some of this journey, looking back at some of Cena's matches, I watched the best of John Cena a while back, last
Mm-hmm.
night to be exact, watching some of his top matches all time in his career. And just
Right.
to see the different in and out guys he had to face showcases that he hasn't had longevity with sub tier, top tier people on his level. Like I said,
Right.
if Edge wasn't forced to retire,
Yeah.
would have been a different story.
Yeah. Right.
Like I said, and like you said, if Batista wasn't mentally out of it from that time,
Mhm. Maybe.
had Bobby Lashley maybe stayed and matured through
Mm-hmm.
WWE, who knows?
Right.
Again,
It's a
the
lot.
Dolph Zigglers, all of these people that were given those keys, Sheamus, Del Rio,
Yeah.
all these people from that era that had those keys, they weren't on a John Cena's level. You could still see the difference
Mm-hmm.
where it was like Cena's that guy. He's just carrying it all.
And like the people you just named, like I feel like by the time like Dolph in like crowd reaction wise, when he did kind of get to that Cena level, it was after he had his program with Cena. I think that
Mm-hmm.
like 2013, I think his TLC match in 2012 with Cena made people really like, okay, Dolph
Yeah,
is that guy. But like you said, he ain't had that level just yet until after he fought Cena.
after.
You know what I mean? Like
Exactly.
everybody knows he was a great wrestler. He was a great talent that needed to get pushed more. But
Mm-hmm.
after Cena, that's when everybody was like, okay, Dolph is the guy that the company need to focus on more.
Mm-hmm.
So I most definitely agree with you, bro. Like, well, I love to see another Cena like character. No, and the reason why I say that because it's a different era, it's a different time in professional wrestling. Like I feel like social media made a big impact because of that. Because nobody want a Cena no more. Like I know people finally liking the Roman right now, but I promise you, like, okay, I'm thinking long term. Okay, let's say after WrestleMania and he's still this heel, somebody gonna eventually want somebody else. And social media, somebody gonna always complain like, I go on Twitter nowadays, I see people saying, "Oh, I love this Roman character. I love it. I love it. I love it." But I'll still see tweets that, "Oh, I hate this Roman character. It's forced. It's getting shoved down our throat." But you just said before you wanted him to turn heel because he was getting shoved down our throat. So it's a different era. That's why I say I don't feel like a Cena per se is needed. Just have multiple big stars, and like we getting that now. Sasha Banks, Drew McIntyre, Roman Reigns. You can say what you want to say about how he got pushed to the main roster, but Keith Lee, Finn Balor since he went back to NXT, Pete Dunne. You got all these marquee names now, and even Cena just stepped up. First, Cena had said he won't be another marquee star in the company. Well, it was like 3 days ago. He just recently said he was wrong about that. We have a whole bunch of marquee stars now, so I don't feel like they don't need a Vince McMahon or the WWE in general don't have to settle just on one guy anymore. Because, like I said, the wrestling industry changed massively over the past 5 years. Because like I said, social media been around and kind of impacted, but the past 5 years, it's changed, especially with AEW around. Impact finally getting its stride back. You got Ring of Honor trying to get back on the map. New Japan Pro Wrestling. You got all the different things of wrestling where you can't just have one guy. You got different multiple people now. And bro, and that's why I love talking about wrestling with you. It's great to dig in your mind because we kind of be on the same wave pack on it. You know what I mean? And not only that, what I love about talking about wrestling with you, you get it. You know it's more than a sport. It's an art. It's a story to it, bro. And it was an honor to have you as my first guest, bro. I had to bring you on because if it would have been wrong for me. Like for me, you probably don't agree. For me not to have you on because you was the guy who introduced me to this. You know what I mean? And I really appreciate you, Oos. You've been my Oos since I was a baby, bro. And I really appreciate you coming on, taking that time. And before we end this, I got one more question for you. I forgot to ask you this, but I got to ask you now because I'm representing them now. So,
yes.
So the NWO or Degeneration X, my brother?
Oh, man. Brother, I love you. I love what you rep. What you rep.
You better not.
But man, let me tell you, I got in trouble a lot of times.
Oh, man,
I'm sorry, man. Listen,
you know what? Oos.
Listen.
I can't get upset.
Listen, I love the NWO. I've always thought that was an iconic symbol. That's an iconic logo. But Degeneration X, man, listen.
You know what?
How many times we got in trouble just for saying "suck it"?
Suck it.
You know how many times that "Break It Down" just plays and that music hits and you over here like, yeah, you feeling like a rebel?
Yeah.
Trying to tell me what to do? Who are you? I'm about to break you down, little man. You know what I mean? Like, man, listen, I have to go with Degeneration X. I mean, talking about arguably one of, if not the greatest tag team in the New Age Outlaws.
Ooh.
You're talking about the greatest iconic Showtime performer in Shawn Michaels.
Okay.
You're talking about the greatest woman of all women in China.
Yeah, you're right.
And then you're talking about one of the greatest and the path, the setting the path for light heavyweight and undersized men going against heavyweights twice his size in X-Pac.
Okay.
Only to cap that off with the man who they say is that darn good and carrying this on his back, and the man with 3 H's, that's Matt Hardy, we'll say Triple H. Oh man, listen.
Hey,
gotta
but
go.
I can respond back to that though. You know, so you got the man, kind of known as Diesel. He was around the man named Shawn Mike. You got the man named Kevin Nash, the man swag, big, sexy, cool. Then you got Razor Ramon Scott Hall. You want a war? We're gonna give you one. And then you got, you throw in people like Hogan. We ain't gonna talk about him, but you got Sting, Conan. Ooh yeah, the Macho Man, yeah, all those guys in there. You know what I'm saying? But major respect to Degeneration X because let's be honest, if it wasn't for DX, maybe NWO probably wouldn't be as popular because they kind of remind you of each other. Even though NWO came around TV first, DX was kind of around, but DX didn't really make their impact till '97. NWO '96, but I feel like those guys carry their own personal brands, representing everything. To me, they were kind of alike, just different names. And bro, to hear you talk about that, bro, it's always a great time to talk about wrestling with you, bro. And most definitely, I gotta have you back on. Tell the people where they can find you at, bro. Tell them, let them know where they can follow you at.
For sure, brother. Well, let me just say, man, first and foremost, I am tremendously proud of you, brother. I am super happy for you. I'm excited to see what you are going to do with this show. I am honored to be a part of history and being the first to help kick this show off. And man, here is to your growth in the podcast world. Here is to your growth and everything that you continually do as you grow as a person, an individual, and welcome to the OTS family in most cases. Shout out to them as well for being able to yet extend yet a great branch as they always do, adding so much tremendous talent to this very brand. So people, if you desire to follow your boy, it's quite simple. I'm not hard to find in these streets. You can find me at Dwayne Dickey Jr. on Instagram. You can find me on Instagram at Highlight Life, HILITE Life. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Facebook. I'm on all of that stuff. You know what I mean? Simple. Look up the Highlight Reel, HILITE Real. More importantly, follow the Life's a Botch podcast. You know what I mean? That's where I talk my things wrestling. We got some guests, a few people that you may have heard of, you know what I mean? There's people you can talk to, listen to, I get to check out and talk to them about their stories and fun memories, maybe somebody like The Godfather or Ron the Truth Killings or, just people, a Jordan Grace, for you up and comers out there, that are fans of today's wrestling and talents, so many to just name, but again, follow that, and most importantly, follow the platform of OTS. You know what I mean? This is what provides for shows like the Life's a Botch podcast and I Am Tremont. So more importantly, if you want to find me, just simply check out the website, www.otsguys.com. But again, salute to you, little bro, for catapulting what's going to be a phenomenal show, because I'm super excited and can't wait to see what else is going to happen on this very show.
Bro, I really appreciate that. I got so much cooking up. And again, major shout out to the OTS guys. Those guys brought me in with welcome arms. And, I really appreciate it. Like he said, check them out on www.otsguys.com. The guys are dope. And you can find me on Instagram at Vibing with the 90s. Or you can find me on Facebook, Darron Tramont. I'm more than welcome. You guys are more than welcome to send me questions or tell me how your reviews. I'm more than welcome to respond back. I love you guys. This is a journey I can't wait to have you ride along with. Hey, I am your man, Tramont. See ya.